Hi, I'm Nina Jurczynski here at Port Townsend, Washington at the Wooden Boat Festival with Lin and Larry Pardey. And they have sailed around the world the equivalent of 5 times, wrote 12 books, and are a super duper couple. So would you like to tell me how you guys met?
Well, we met in a bar.
I was
That's traditional.
I was looking for a little sailboat to buy so I could learn something new, and Larry was first mate on a big schooner. And I came down to look at this little sailboat that was for sale on the schooner, and the skipper took me to the bar to have a drink, and Larry was playing pool. And he came over and introduced himself and said to the skipper of the big yacht, "Who's the chick, Bob?" That was the first words I ever heard out of his mouth. But I ran away with him 3 days later.
So the rest is history.
The rest is better than history. It's been wonderful.
Just a big old adventure.
It was an adventure from the moment I met him because he was just starting to build a boat. And he had a keel timber, and he had a rock to hammer nails into what's called a loft floor because he hadn't gone back up to his home in Canada to get his boat building tools yet.
So you were building this boat with a rock and nails.
Yeah, that's not important.
So what made you be like, I need to build this boat so bad that, I'm going to use whatever tools I can scrounge up?
Well, the lofting was pretty simple, and it was simple tools, obviously. A rock is pretty simple.
Yeah. I'd say that Larry, he's a bit shy about talking about himself at times, but he wanted to build a boat because he dreamed of going sailing ever since he read a book by a man named John Guzzwell called Trekka Around the World. And John Guzzwell's from here and built a 21-foot sailboat next to a fish and chip shop up in Victoria and set off with $500 and went sailing. And he went around the world in this 21-foot sailboat and came back 3 years later? 5 years later, and when he was interviewed by the local newspaper, they asked, "So you set off with $500, how much you have left?" And he said, "I've got $300. He says, "Because I was able to earn my way wherever I was." And Larry told me his reaction to that was, "That's the life for me, not working all the time and going out and playing and still being able to earn my money along the way." So he wanted a cruising boat. And when I met him, he said, "Lin, I looked for a year and realized I was wasting my money and just had to build what I wanted."
That's amazing. Have you guys seen any sea monsters or anything, or been in any crazy storms?
Well, you can't sail for 45 years and 200,000 miles without having some storms. We deliver boats for other people, and quite often we have to do that when the seasons aren't perfect. So yes, we've had our share of storms. We have been caught in 3 cyclones, the edges of 3 cyclones, fortunately. But that's one of the things that's really helped us because we sail in very small boats. Our first boat was only 24 feet long, and the newer ones are 29 feet long, no engine, very simple boats. But Larry taught me about how to handle storms, lessons he learned from a very famous Northwest sailor named Captain Voss, who sailed many, in the turn of the century. And through the years, that's helped us get through some amazing storms. But monsters, seen some wonderful sea life, seen fantastic whales. The most scary thing we ever saw is what we thought was a huge dead fish lying in the wake of our boat when we were caught in a big storm. It was about 9 feet across. Larry says, "Lin, a ship must have cut the tail off this fish." And when I went out, here's this 9 foot across sunfish laying on the surface of the sea, just sunning himself. Weirdest looking fish I've ever seen in my life.
So you've been all around the world. What was your most favorite place?
What was your favorite place?
South Africa. Yeah, Namibia and Botswana and Zimbabwe.
What was Zimbabwe like?
Well, at the time it was pretty tough. People were desperately inflating their currency, and they were having troubles.
Why was it one of your favorite places?
What would you say?
We made a video about the adventure we had there because Larry fixed up a 4-wheel drive vehicle and put a miniature camper on the back of it. And we spent 7 months in the Kalahari Desert with the Bushmen. And then we spent a month with Shona sculptors in an isolated part of Zimbabwe. We actually helped them make a video about their community where they were working together and creating fantastic sculpture. And they used the video to show people in Denmark, and now their work is known worldwide. So we lived with these people, and it was a chance to move right into their culture. And we also found out there's more wildlife outside of game reserves in those areas than there was inside. I mean, waking up in the morning and having to shoo an elephant out of the way so you could get to your fire, that's pretty exciting. Yeah. It was very, very special. But I'd say I loved Argentina. We sailed down to Argentina actually because we wanted to sail around Cape Horn, but we told all our friends we were just going down there to learn tango. And when we got to Argentina and met some local sailors, and they said, "What are you doing down here?" We said, "Oh, we decided to come here and learn tango." And they went out of their way to introduce us to people who played tango, which is a style of music also, and take us to see some of the finest dancers in the world, and help us try to learn to untangle our feet, which we never completely succeeded in doing, did we?
It's hard to do, you know. It's as hard as ballet.
Really?
Yeah.
To be a good tango dancer it's a skill, and it's beautiful. So it was, and the food in Argentina, the food is to die for. It's fabulous.
Was it the best food that you've had in the world?
It's the only place in the world where, even at bus stops, you got beautifully cooked, rich food. You didn't get stale donuts or packaged junk food at bus stops. You got fresh-made, wholesome stews. It was, I'd say overall, the quality of the food was the best in the world.
So what does your future hold? What are you guys planning for, this next coming year?
We're publicizing this new book of Lin's. This one, Bull Canyon.
And where are you going to travel some more? Or?
Well, our home base is in New Zealand, and we've flown to the United States where we keep a pickup truck and camper. We call it our summer cottage. And it's just a little 8-foot camper. And we're spending 4 months exploring the United States for the first time in our lives, because we've explored 75 other countries, but we've only gotten to know the coast of the U.S. So we're exploring the United States and doing book signings and going to boat shows to introduce Bull Canyon, because although it's a book that a lot of sailors like, the reviewers are saying that it's a memoir that almost any reader will enjoy because it's funny.
Yeah.
It was a very funny time in our life. It's about accidental homesteading.
So you're going on a road trip then?
We're a month into a real road trip. We've been to Gleser National Park, and I've seen Yellowstone for the first time ever.
And Old Faithful.
And we went to the Cody Museum, where I found out that Annie Oakley was only 2 inches taller than me. So we're doing a road trip and book promotion for the next 4 months.
You're 4'9". How tall are you? 4'10". I'm 5'2". So I get
You're
you.
a big girl.
So tall.
So tall.
So tall. What was the most happening? Had the best music?
Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh, Ireland.
Because they know how to drink.
In Ireland they have a term that something's good crack, and that's spelled C-R-A-I-C. And good crack means just a good time, good event, good feeling. And Irish pubs in Dingle, Ireland, are good crack. It's a town of 5,000 people. We sailed in there, and the first thing that happened is, as we were short tacking through the entrance, we got greeted by the biggest dolphin I've ever seen, who leapt up about 9 feet in the air, just in front of us. And we sailed in, and we were informed that only 13 pubs had music that night. Now, a town of 5,000 people, they have 52 pubs. And every night, there's 10 to 20 of them with live music, and musicians come from all over the world. And we had to leave after 9 days or suffer total exhaustion. We were up till 4 every morning.
It was just a blast.
It was a blast. It was really great.
Why did you settle to move in New Zealand? What about New Zealand says home to you?
Well, we sailed into New Zealand and immediately found people who were very like-minded. It's very much a do-it-yourself country. It's the only place we've ever been where people didn't say, "Oh, what a pretty boat, where'd you get it?" And when we said we built it, they said, "Oh, you built it." Well, no. In New Zealand, when you sail in, people say, "When did you build your boat?" Because they just assume most people build their own boats, their own homes. Also, so we ended up enjoying being there for a while, and then we saw a perfect little waterfront place that was so run down that nobody else was foolish enough to buy it. And we were able to buy a 2-acre waterfront property with a little boatyard on it for the same cost as what we sold our 24-foot sailboat for. Wow. But it needed major work. And Larry and I just didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but it became a home base. And through the years, we fixed it up in between voyaging to other places.
That's awesome. I like that you guys build everything yourself. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's the way we get it the way we want it.
Yeah, just make it perfectly for you. That totally makes sense.
We're into simplicity. So like our home in New Zealand's only 600 square feet, but it's all very beautiful cedar, inside and out.
So what's the craziest festival you've ever been to?
I must say the Santa Barbara Festival was pretty...
That one in Rio, the football.
Oh, the celebration for the world, when the Brazilians won the World Cup celebration. We happened to be there, and my cousins had an apartment on the Copacabana, which is the finest beach in town. And we had our 2 nephews with us. We'd invited them to come sailing with us. So we were all down in Rio together. And when the Brazilians won the cup, 4 million people got out on the beach to celebrate, and they hired Rod Stewart and his sound truck to go up and down the whole beach playing all night. That was one wild carnival.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys are such a inspiring couple. You work together, live together, do everything together all the time, and are rocking at life. Do you have any advice for people on how to win like you guys are?
Just do what you want to do.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Don't let people tell you you can't do things. Don't let people say, "Oh, that's impossible." Nothing's impossible. Have a dream and learn to use your own hands to build things, to fix things. Anyone who can fix things and work with their own hands can get a job anywhere in the world.
Thanks for watching. Nina Jurczynski here in Port Townsend, Washington at the Wooden Boat Festival with Lin and Larry Pardey. Check out their books. They're awesome.